So in class, we talk about the principle of brain plasticity or neuroplasticity, which essentially is how the brain has this innate ability to change or modify its structure based on experiences we have, and this takes place throughout our lifetimes.
But sensory substitution is basically just the field where researchers and engineers can leverage computer technology and neuroplasticity to replace some deficient sense, some deficient modality, like if someone's deaf or someone's blind. We can essentially replace that sense through a type of relay through another sense. So one really common method of doing that is transmitting information through your skin. It's really sensitive, and certain parts of it can pick up information and transmit information very well. So essentially, I guess maybe one of the best ways to talk about this is with an example. So David Eagleman is a really cool neuroscientist. Him and one of his students, they developed this vest. It's basically, they're leveraging vibrotactile stimulus. So essentially they have microphone pick up auditory information, and they transmit it to an interface that uses like an algorithm to transduce that auditory information into information that the skin can interpret, and then it's relayed to an array that's on the back. And essentially what it does is it relays that information that the skin can understand to the somatosensory cortex. It would flow into the temporal lobe and be interpreted by the auditory cortex. And it allows deaf individuals to hear through their skin.
You don't have enough money to spend on a cochlear implant, or your insurance doesn't cover it. It is thousands and thousands of dollars, whereas this is 40 times cheaper than a cochlear implant. So language development seems to be a prerequisite to actually being able to have this device on.
It's supposed to.
All right, we'll start by asking you guys a riddle. And this riddle goes, there are two men dead in a cabin in the woods. And your job is to figure out what happened to these two men. Go for it. These kinds of problems are called insight problems, and they can easily lead us astray if we're not thinking about the problem in the right way.
Some common questions that people have, like myself, was it a double homicide? Did they both kill each other at the same time, or a double suicide?
And some other questions that people ask is it really cold? Do they freeze to death?
Is one person dead and not the other person, or it's...
But these are all focusing on the wrong part of the question. The essential part of the question is one word, and the word is cabin. And the word cabin has two meanings. So in this context, we're actually talking about the cabin of an airplane. But a lot of people assume that we're talking about a log cabin, which is generally what you would find in the woods. Right, but the actual explanation is that they crashed their plane into the woods, and now there's a cabin in the woods, but it's a plane cabin.
Well, kind of a good transition off of the cabin in the woods insight problem. That has a lot to do with language, just the idea that you're thinking about a cabin in the woods as a log cabin versus a cabin of an airplane. And I think the most interesting thing that we talked about this semester was bilingualism, because the idea behind when you have a student that can speak both Spanish and English, they'll have code switching moments where they'll start off their sentence in English and then they'll end the sentence in Spanish, or they'll put the verb in front of the noun rather than the noun in front of the verb. And it happens because their brain is cognitively thinking about both languages simultaneously. It becomes so natural to think of both languages at the same time that a bilingual learner might not even know that they're using Spanish in a sentence when they're trying to speak English. they'll start off
Like
just
unconscious.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
completely unconscious.
This creates a lot of issues with kids getting misinterpreted as having a language disorder or language delay when really they actually have faster cognitive processing.
It's good to learn how people learn language because now we're teaching language to computers too. Thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks.
Professor.
Bye.
Great course.